Hey everybody, I'm mainly making this video to help out my friend Karen, but I think it might be helpful to other people too so I'm publishing it up here. Karen is working on her own senior seminar math project, where she's using graph theory to learn about Candy Crush and the math behind it, which is way cooler than what I did. But she's having some trouble with a specific part of her project, where she is trying to do visual representations of the graphs, but has trouble drawing them out since they are very complex. One thing I suggested she do recently was try using GraphViz, which is a free and open source program for drawing graphs like the one she needs. She's downloaded GraphViz and has been trying to use it to draw the graphs for the project, but she's been having a lot of difficulties with it, and understandably so. Karen is as tech or computer savvy as anyone else our age, but GraphViz is primarily a command line application, and most people, Karen included, just don't know how to use command line applications. Why should they? For the average person, it's just not necessary 99% of the time. But sometimes it is useful, and if you don't know where to look, the learning curve can be steep. So for Karen and everyone else, I thought I'd do a video on how, basically, to use command line applications. Karen, if you want to see how to use GraphViz specifically, skip to the third part of this video. But if you want the general tutorial, just stay tuned. Okay, first we should do some definitions so we're on the same page about what we're doing. I'm going to bring up a command prompt, or command line. What is the command line? Well, for a computer, the command line is basically a text interface that allows you to do things in the computer with text commands. In contrast, most of what we think of when we think of computers uses a graphical interface, which allows you to do things using a pointing device like my mouse and interacting with pictures on the screen. You can open, copy, delete files, run programs. Basically anything you can do with a computer normally, you can do by typing in the command line. Now, most programs can be run from the command line or from clicking on them on your desktop, but some programs can only really be run from the command line. Why? Sorry, messing with my script. Well, it's easier. I've programmed some applications myself, and it's a lot easier to make a program that's controlled through keywords and typing them than to program a graphical menu and all the buttons and options for the user to interact with. It can also be a lot handier. Most programming languages allow you to run programs from the command line with extra controls and arguments that you couldn't use otherwise, allowing the programmer to automate things much more easily. And finally, some programs are just old. A lot of code in the computers we use now has its origins in code that dates back to the 90s or even the 80s, when graphical displays just weren't the norm like they are today. So some old programs are command line only just because they had no alternative. Now that we've talked about the what and the why, let's talk about the how. How do we use the command line to run command line programs? It's easier than you think. The first step, of course, is to download the program you want to run on your computer. Here, I've already downloaded GraphViz and all of its necessary components so I can run it. After you download the program, go to the folder where the program is in your File Explorer. Type CMD in the address bar of the File Explorer and press the Enter key. This will open a command line for the folder where the application is. That's important. Your command line needs to be in the same place as the program you want to run in order for the command line to find it. Now that the command line is open and in the right place, you're almost done. Type the name of the program you want in the line, typically just something.exe. For some programs, that's all you need. You just press enter and you're done. However, a lot of command line arguments need more than that, and that's where arguments come in. Arguments are basically just keywords and stuff that you can apply to a program in the command line to control how it works. Applying arguments to an application is pretty easy. Just put a space between the name of the program and the argument, whatever it may be. To add another argument, just hit space and add the next argument. You can do this as much as makes sense for the program. I won't really tell you what arguments you should use or when, since every program is a little bit different. But one piece of advice I would give is to try and run the command of whatever program you have, -help, especially if you're using a program that you haven't used before. The -help is something called a flag, or an argument you can give to the command line application that turns on a feature of the program. The -help flag is a pretty standard feature for most command line programs, and typically lists all the different kinds of arguments and features you can apply while you run the application, and how you can use them. Right here, you can see all the stuff for GraphViz. I also recommend you read the manual or documentation of any new application you use, if there is one. Reading the manual can help you come across features or limitations that you may not have realized until much later, and can make doing whatever you want to do a lot faster and easier. For command line applications, the documentation often contains a list of all the possible arguments and features, and sometimes even examples on how to use the program, which is very handy. Both of these will often tell you what order arguments need to be ordered in as well. Sometimes entering arguments into the command prompt in the wrong order can be a big deal, so you should always be careful about what you type in and run. But generally, that's about it. Download the program, read the manual, find out what you want to do with the program, open a command prompt, and then just type the program or whatever arguments you see necessary to do what you want to do with it. It can be intimidating at first, but it's not too bad once you get the hang of it. Now that I've gone over how to generally use the command line and command line applications, let's try the specific example of GraphViz. I'll start off by skipping a few steps. I've already downloaded the program, and I don't need to read the documentation because I already know what Keren and I want to do and how to do it. But let's try and run .exe with the help flag just to be safe. Have it all right here. What do we want? We want to take a script file that I've wrote. Let's see. It's right down here. Test. That's a file for a graph. We want to take that script file that we wrote in the GraphViz language and turn it into a picture. How can we do that? Well, first we'll use the help flag, and it brings up a page full of information. At the top, we see a helpful usage line, and that tells us where the arguments go and how we run it in the command line. From this, we know all the modifiers and stuff go first, and then the names of our script file will come at the end. Reading through the help page, we can see the T flag right here, which specifies the output format to a given type. Since I've read the manual, I know that we can use this flag to write our script to a picture file as the output. I'll set it to be a PNG, which is an option for this program. I also see the lowercase o flag, which specifies what we want to name the output file. For the sake of this video, we'll have it output to test.png. Oops. Finally, we'll need the argument for the script itself. Just the script file that I wrote earlier and is saved in this directory. Now that we've typed all this into the command prompt, we can just hit enter and run the program. When the command prompt returns to the text line and we can input stuff to it again, that means that the program is done running and has finished all the stuff it was supposed to do. The program is finished running, so now we can look at the file that the program made and... Oops. I mistyped it. And it's a picture of the graph that we programmed earlier. Once it comes up, there we go. It did exactly what we wanted it to do. That basically is how you use a command line application. It can be pretty handy or even powerful under the right circumstances, so long as you know how to use it. I hope this video has been useful to you and taught you how to do something you couldn't before. Have a good day!